and welcome to Mums at the Table. Thanks for joining us as we sit down to have a chat about all things family and life. Here to give us their perspective and keep me in check is Shona.
Hi.
Fiona.
Hi.
And Julie. How are you, ladies?
Yeah. Good.
How's your week going?
It's actually been pretty rough. It's really cold. So
Good, rough?
Yeah, we're trying to keep everyone well.
Yeah, we're all good at our place so far.
I feel like we're drowning at the moment. There's just so much happening. I think that's, there are weeks where just everything just happens at once, and that's where our household is at the moment. But let's move on. Coming up today, we are talking to co-founder of BodyMatters Australasia, Sara McMann, about body image and how kids are dealing with it. With Aussie youth rating body image as one of their top 3 concerns, this is a conversation that we need to have. Also on the table for discussion is kids needing a village and how do we create that for them? Plus, do females really prefer male bosses? Gia is in the kitchen with her crew making a great lunchbox bliss ball. But first, is sibling regression an issue for your family? The transition from one child to 2 can throw you mentally. But how do your older children fare in all of this change? Motherco.com interviewed Dr. Laura Kaufman about sibling regression, and depending on the age gap, regression can come in the form of sleep, toilet training, feeding and social behaviour. Okay, so she didn't say social behaviour. I added that one in because how could you miss that? Because for me that was probably the bigger one.
What do you mean, they got really clingy or?
No, my eldest, look, I think she didn't have sibling regression when her younger sister came along as such. She actually got that a little bit later and wanted to be more of a baby when she got older. But I think being a strong introvert, it didn't affect her as much. But Julie, what about your girls?
Well, I didn't notice it in my girls, but my personal opinion about this is that it's probably personality based. My oldest one, I think looking back now, I understand that her love language is acts of service.
Yep.
Same as me, I think. And I was always unknowingly, can you do this? Can you pick this up? Can you get this for your sister? And I think I was actually feeding into that.
And she responded to it well.
Yeah, I don't think it was anything I did. Whereas my second one, her love language, I think, is quality time. And I think if she'd been born first, it would have been very different. I don't think I did anything special. I think I was just lucky the way they turned out.
Yeah,
I don't think I had to deal with regression either. I think but I was intentional about including my children with all the pregnancies that I had, and that meant taking them to the obstetrician, taking them to the gynecologist. They came to all those appointments, including the scans.
Oh yeah, that's the life, isn't it?
They were part of the process, and they knew what was going on with mummy's body. Yeah. So I think it's important as parents to be intentional and letting your child know and including them.
That's what Laura Kaufman was saying. She was also pointing out that age gap can be a thing as well. So if you've got a large age gap between kids, those older ones are used to having mum and dad to themselves, not having to share their time. So that would throw them more, I would think.
I think too, well, for me, mine were close, so there wasn't a chance for them to regress, and in my family you don't have a chance to do that.
Yes.
But I think for me it's been now they're older. There's a lot more fighting between them because they're in their late teens, early 20s. Right. So they're fighting now.
Excellent. That's just what you want, isn't it?
Yeah,
but they're out of home, so it doesn't matter.
So another point I thought was with my family, I actually had strong support from my husband and grandparents and my parents. So they allowed that normality to continue with the twins who were my first. So then the girls, when there was a new baby, it was like, oh, well, there's still love. We're still being fed. There's someone still present. And I think that was important as well.
I think I had a high needs child too, so
that makes a difference.
It does make a difference. I've actually found out since that the second child felt that he wasn't getting as much attention as he needed because of the special needs. So I think that's something you need to be aware of.
That would absolutely change.
That changes the dynamics.
Yeah. I think sometimes you can do all the preparation in the world, you take them to everything, you give them the books about big sister, little brother, but they're still going to regress. And, they get through it. They don't usually end up killing their younger
It's a big enough change for us. It's going to be a big change for them too. It's something we need to expect. I remember breastfeeding one child as I had the other child on my knee reading a book to them. You just learn to multitask and give attention in different ways. Well, look, there's got to be some great stories out there about how kids have reacted to a new sibling. Please jump onto our Facebook page, Mums at the Table, and share them. Give us a giggle or a horror story. We take both. Well, from creating kids to creating a village, we hear a lot of talk about how it takes a village to raise a child. But what is it about a village that children need? And with the absence of a village in a child's life, are parents trying too hard to be everything to them? Now, what do you think here? Because we've talked so much about parents creating that village for them to support them, but what about for kids? Do they need the extended village?
Yes, yes, yes. I know, Shona. I'm such a big believer in this. I think I'm so grateful for the extended village that my children had when trauma hit our family. I think extended family is so important because they lost their dad, and my brother and the men in the church and my husband's friends just really stepped in and took that to another level. And, I can't be everything to my children, but I wanted to choose the mentors that I didn't want them just to go into random friends. So we were very intentional on the people that our children mixed with so that they would develop good mentors. We tried to choose their mentors rather than let them choose them.
I've heard you say that before, like you were intentional about picking friends, parents, your kids' friends, that sort of thing.
Well, we weren't so much intentional about picking their friends. I have a bit of an issue with that.
Yeah.
But the friends that my children picked, I became friends with their parents. So, and I was really lucky, like you, that I had a church that I could be a part of the village with. And I think, like you, we've discussed this village thing before. It's hard to be a village in a city because, you probably live 2 hours away from me in the city. So it is quite hard to find a village. And I don't know. I struggle with the concept because I suppose I brought my kids up with just the two of us.
Without a village.
Yeah, and we were very intentional about that.
I agree with you in the sense that as a parent, we do as we want to.
Yeah.
The parent does what the parent does. So my makeup is I kind of want to take control of everything when it comes to my children, particularly in terms of if they need advice or they need mentoring. I would prefer that they would come to me.
But I think we're tricking ourselves if we think our teenage kids are going to come to us all the time for all the advice. So I want to create an environment. You can't choose your kids' friends. They're going to choose their own, obviously. But I think you can create an environment where there are healthy people that you would be happy for your children to go to.
Yeah, I think in the same... I feel like I am that mentor to a lot of my nieces and nephews in our community. But I guess being an islander, we grew up with strong role models in females and uncles and aunties and all that kind of thing. So I probably took it for granted. So I'm not intentionally saying to my daughters, go and seek out people that may offer you some help in life. But surrounding them with key role models who are positive and can help them, I don't see a harm in that.
Look, I do think your teenage children do come to you if you keep the lines of communication open. There are always going to be things they discuss outside of you, which is girlfriends and boyfriends and everything else. But if you're one of those people who have managed to befriend their friends, you're going to know about it anyway. You're going to know what's going on.
And I love that idea of being friends with your kids' friends.
They don't need
really
to know.
I think that's just something moving forward as your kids get older. That's just a smart thing to do. And look, I was like you. I had a huge extended family. Love it. Love my aunties and uncles to this day. They are very special to me. Well, as Essential Kids magazine points out, you cannot have enough love. And we can't get enough of Gia and her posses. Here they are making a lunchbox bliss balls.
Bliss balls. This is what we're making, another lunchbox idea. The reason why I'm making lots of lunchbox ideas is because a lot of mothers are wanting that. And also a lot of people that go to work are thinking, what can I have that's a bit easy to make at the beginning of the week and then have it for the rest of the week? And that's how I roll in my house. I make this stuff at the beginning of the week and then I've got it for the rest of the week. That way, if the kids want a treat, you're not running around the shops at Coles or Woolies or wherever you shop, walking around and kids are like, I want something to eat. And then you end up buying them chocolate or chips or something to keep them quiet. You can have these in your bag ready to go. Hey? Okay, before you finish them all, can you put the oats in here? Let's show people how to make it. Okay, oats. Can we have the desiccated coconut and cinnamon? Thank you. Good work. Maybe not in there, not in that hole. Very good work. And you've got the pepita seeds, so put the pepita seeds in there. You've got, which ones are those ones?
Sunflower seeds.
Sunflower seeds. Okay, what else have we got there? Little raisins? No, they're black currants or little currants. And can you do the chocolate, Momo? Hold on. Olive's got raisins, so we've just put raisins in there. You can put this in, and because you're doing that, you can give one for you, one for Litza. One each. Okay, and the rest, one goes in your mouth and the rest goes inside there. So can you put that in there? Carefully. Good boy. I can trust you. You didn't even steal any. That's awesome. And, a bit of maple. Now, the maple syrup, you don't have to put that much in it because you only need a little bit to make it sticky.
I already put this in.
And you put the little bit of vanilla, and Litz already put the vanilla in. And now all you have to do is you have to process it until it's a crumbly mixture, like a sticky crumbly mixture. There we go. Done deal. Okay, so we're done. It is a sticky texture. Can I show everyone? Well, there we go. There we go, nice sticky.
You can have the tiny ones.
Crumbly, sticky texture. The best way to work with something like this is to either wet your hands with a little bit of water, or if you have some, I've got a little bit of oil here, some coconut oil. That's like easy peasy. So if you just put some coconut oil on your fingers, even though mothers can moisturize their hands while they do it. What? What is it? I just want to cut it, okay. So then you just get some of the mixture in your hand to make a nice little bliss ball. Actually, might put some more in there. Make a good size one. And then after you finish rolling all the bliss balls, put them in the fridge they'll just harden up a bit more. They'll be firmer. There we go. And these are for your little, we need that because I'm gonna make them. And you can make a little face on it for your little children if you want to, if you've got time to. I don't have the time. There you go. So there's one of your bliss balls. So just so viewers know, he can't switch this on, okay? So nothing's gonna happen. He can't switch it on because it's got a safety switch and the blades aren't in there, so that's good. So there you have it. You have your little lunchbox idea, your bliss ball. Mothers, put them in your bag when you go to the shops. This is the best way. The kids love it, and it's chewy, so it takes ages for them to chew and swallow. And then that way they'll keep quiet for a little while for you. Enjoy our bliss balls. Do you want to have a taste for me?
Not until it's frozen.
Not until it's cold. Do you want to have a taste of my bliss ball?
That's frozen.
Okay, no one's up to it. I'll have it.
Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.
Love your work, Gia. And if you are wanting more ideas and inspiration with vegetarian food, we want to help you out. We are giving away Sanitarium's winter weeknights. It's full of great recipes. So to get your free copy, just email us hello@mumsatthetable.com. Well, many studies until recently show that females prefer male bosses, but Gallup's research showcases a pendulum swing in the US, with 55% of Americans having no preference about the gender of their boss. But women have often had, and still do, the reputation of being the tough, emotional and intimidating boss. Does this come down to a gender, or is it character? Julie, do you believe in the queen bee phenomenon at work?
Look, I think I'm part of that 55% that really has no opinion about whether their boss is male or female.
Well, that will probably be based on your experience. So you've probably had...
So I think I can only speak from my experience. I've had male and female, and I haven't really noticed any difference. But maybe that's because I've only worked in teaching environments and caring environments. If I had been in business or marketing or finance, maybe it'd be different. I don't know. You've worked in other things.
Lost. What's the queen bee thing?
Well, I guess that's the boss who is the intimidating, tough one, a bit catty, that sort of thing. So that's, they can have a reputation. She's owning it, people. So do you think you'd be a good boss?
I actually haven't had a lot of people work under me. I'm a sort of a sole trader, but I'm pretty hard. I have a standard that I want done in my job, Do
you feel a little bit sorry for women in that when they've come in, it's been dominated by men, and as they've come in, they've had to prove themselves, and they've had a different culture to sort of work with while they prove themselves?
I think it goes back to the industry. It depends on what industry you're in. Some industries are more cutthroat than others, but I've worked for both men and female bosses who I feel like have both been great bosses, but it just all depends on their experience and their own knowledge, because you can have bad and pros and cons in both. And I think it all comes back down to that experience. And you can tell an inexperienced boss because they do feel threatened by, you know,
They don't know how to manage.
their juniors.
They don't know how to lead.
I wouldn't like to come into a new job with a preconceived idea that I've got a woman boss, I better be careful or on my guard. I think it would be a shame to go in with that attitude.
I love that this study that they've showed that 55% are sort of going, it doesn't matter either way. That's the first time it's been like that. So beforehand, it's predominantly been, I want a male boss, and that's from males and females.
I mean, you can get really bad male bosses, can't you, that are really weak and washy and don't know how to manage. So
is this then a leadership thing? Is it this that people get into these positions where they have to make decisions but are not necessarily good leaders?
Well, going back, I also think that it depends on the person themselves, the character, their own experience and what they bring to the job. You can be a mean person and bring that meanness to your job, but you can be a lovely person and bring that lovely person. But I also think at home, sometimes people who wear the pants at home don't tend to wear the pants
at work.
And vice versa.
You don't think they bring that across when they...
No, I think they power trip at work sometimes.
Really?
That's been my
I
experience.
would have thought you brought the same personality to work. I think it also depends on the culture of the business. If the business is promoting people with those kind of personality traits, that's who you're going to get as your boss.
Well, look, you may prefer a male boss, but what sort of leaders do you want your daughters and sons to be? Well, we can change that culture by letting them see us encourage each other and build each other up. We want to make the hero makers of tomorrow. Let's keep that positivity rolling. We've got Lisa Stephenson on how to deal with negative thinking.
Today we're talking about something you might have had to deal with yourself, as have I, negative thinking. And on the couch is success coach Lisa Stephenson. Thanks for joining us.
Here we are.
Here we are. And when you think of thinking, often your head is the first thing you start to be mindful of, but you make a connection between your head and your heart. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so often we go to one naturally. So we're a real feeler or we're a real thinker. You know how some people are overthinkers as well?
Yep.
And so I often suggest to people that if you know you're a feeler and you tend to make decisions from a place of how you feel and your heart, try doing the opposite and going to logic from your head. So if I wasn't thinking about how I was feeling, then what would I be thinking about this if I was applying some logic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because what we're talking about really is breaking some of those habitual negative thoughts that can really come into play.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of comes down to maybe the systems and culture that we create around ourselves then.
Yeah.
How do you create a culture of positive thinking in contrast?
Yeah, this is about who we're hanging out with. You know, if we think about who we choose to go out to dinner with on Friday night, and culturally the people around us play a really big part in how our life plays out. So it's important. There's actually some new research on this. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
So in an average day, we have about 60,000 thoughts.
Wow.
I know. All the mums listening just went, yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Yep.
And about 95% of those thoughts will be the same tomorrow.
Wow.
What? I know. It hurts my head to think about it. But in the context of the conversation we're having today, the research tells us that 80% of those thoughts we're having nearly every day are actually negative.
Wow.
Which can sound a bit scary, but it's in the context of small things as well. So when I think about I have to go to work today.
Yeah, okay.
You know, that's quite a different thing to I get to go to work today.
Yeah.
So being really mindful of who we're hanging out with and what are the things I'm actually thinking about in terms of how my life plays out every day.
Yeah.
And how habitual am I?
Yeah.
You know, people who catch public transport often have their own little spot.
Yep.
That they
That's
stand
their
on.
seat. They have to have it.
That's their seat. And, you know, on a bus or if we're driving, we drive the same way to work because, you know, it gets us there most efficiently. And we have our favourite restaurants that we go to and our friends that we hang out with. So actually deliberately creating new experiences for us is super important in terms of our growth.
The intentionality, I like that. And also I think as adults too, we can kind of get stuck in that very practical, this is what could go wrong, this is why I'm thinking this way aspect to life, I guess, or way of thinking. Where does imagination come into play then?
Yeah, it's so important. At the moment, we hear a lot of talk about people being busy, you know, and particularly mums and, you know, lots of people actually. I think it's a real generational thing that we're feeling very full in life and there can be a lot of negativity that goes with that. And so we can be busy but happy.
Right.
And, you know, there's lots of different things for people to think about, but when we specifically particularly look at playfulness and imagination, it gives us different ideas. You know,
Yeah.
when was the last time you just got a blank piece of paper, you know, steal the kids' crayons and actually just create a visual for yourself of what would be an ideal holiday or
Yeah.
what would my next most favourite career move be? You know, be really playful with your thinking.
Yeah, have some playing, some colouring in. I like that, Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
And you can find more from Lisa on her website and also follow us at Mums at the Table on our socials.
According to the Butterfly Foundation, this is the 5th year in a row that young Aussies have rated body image as one of their top 3 concerns in Mission Australia's National Youth Survey. An estimated 20% of females have an undiagnosed eating disorder, and the rate of males having an eating disorder is on the rise. Well, today we are talking to Sara McMann, co-founder of BodyMatters Australasia. Sarah, welcome to Mums at the Table.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here. I feel like this is a topic that was really big when I was a teenager, and I don't know, it feels like it's almost fallen off the agenda a little bit. Is that what's actually happened?
I think it's been a big topic for a really long period of time, and I think that the nature of body image issues has changed and evolved over the years. So it's something I think that unfortunately for decades there's been body anxiety and body shame that women in particular have experienced, and now more than ever it's something that we're talking about, and we're having that quantified by Mission Australia's surveys consistently showing. In fact, the first time they did the survey, body image actually wasn't on the survey, and then
on the survey.
Well, they didn't even think to include it.
Okay.
And then after that, they've included it every year, and it's consistently been one of the top 3 issues.
So how can we're talking about body images, what sort of things are we talking about?
Ultimately, when we're talking about body image, we're talking about how someone perceives themselves and how they think that they look. So their perception of how they look and how they feel about that.
So anorexia, bulimia.
So I guess what you're talking about is eating disorders. So when people have body image disturbances that can reach a point where there's clinical significance and reaches what we would diagnose as an eating disorder. Unfortunately, I think body shame is something that affects most women, which doesn't mean we all have eating disorders, but definitely I think if you think about an iceberg, that there's a bit of the iceberg that we can see, and that's kind of what we see with eating disorders.
I think it's like Western world problems, because I feel like being an islander, you know, big is beautiful and that's celebrated where I come from. Whereas I feel like here in the Western world, we kind of take our looks, like this, you know, skinny is pretty, and which is
Why
not
is
the
that?
way.
Why are we
I
so
don't know,
different here?
Well, it's a great question because it was actually followed in when the television was introduced to Fiji. Within a short period of time, they noticed all of a sudden there was eating disorder issues. So it's actually been researched in terms of the fact that Western ideals do impact on how we feel about ourselves.
So TV stars were the original influencers, I
and
guess.
marketing.
Marketing, and I guess this thin ideal. So this particular body shape, the really homogenised beauty ideal that we see.
So as mums,
from?
sorry, I was going to say, as mums, if we're raising children in this society where it's even more than, you know, it was for us, how can we recognise it in our girls and or boys, because it's becoming a problem for boys, and how can we help?
So I think we need to maybe separate this to 2 different things. One is body image issues and one's eating disorders. So we think about body image issues, which, as I said, unfortunately I think most people experience, and if we talk about that as a starting place, I think that there's a lot of things that we can be doing to protect our children from developing body image issues, and also being aware that it's most likely, unfortunately, in the society that we live in, which is saturated with very narrow ideals about how we should look and how we should behave. And it's not just about appearance, it's messages about health, you know, what health's healthy, that we think that health and thinness are synonymous, which isn't necessarily the case. So that there's so many industries that capitalise off this.
Because you look at boys and they're all now down at the gym pumping irons and doing whatever they do, taking proteins. I mean, that can't be healthy if you're obsessive about it.
That's exactly right. And I think this is the thing we need to remember. Just because someone's thin or someone might be muscly, it certainly doesn't mean that they're necessarily healthy, that we can't, unless we're someone's doctor, we can't know someone's state of health. And certainly there's a lot of unhealthy practices that people engage in, which might mean that they look healthy because they're thin or muscly, but that doesn't actually, you know, we can't tell how healthy someone is.
And has social media exacazed this?
Absolutely.
Like exponentially? Yeah,
No, social media has, and I think the thing that really concerns me, it's called, we're seeing more terms coined around this. So one of them is Actually, I've just forgotten what it is now. But this idea that people will come in now to plastic surgeons with images of themselves that they've manipulated with Facetune or different apps, so that they're expecting to look to be modified in a way that they can modify themselves. And so
this just isn't adults though, is it? Like we've got kids having the issue and adults. So is this across the sort of the board with adults and
it's adults as well, although I think for adults it's a little bit more protective because by the time, say, I was in my 20s when Facebook came out, so I guess I had a solid enough sense of who I was and how I looked, but I think it's more problematic for children and young people who don't necessarily have the opportunity to have that sense of who they are and how they look.
I think it's one thing to recognise it, but what can we do if we're seeing things in our children? What do we need to watch out for? Where can we go for help?
So I think the big thing in terms of protecting children from developing body image issues to start with, firstly is being aware of how we behave ourselves,
Right.
so our own body image issues.
Not to project that onto our children.
When I
Absolutely.
became a mum, that's when I became aware of it because I didn't realise how negative I was about my body. And when they were watching me, I'm like, whoa, let's stop that train.
Absolutely, and it's something that it's important that we're conscious
So
of.
you're talking about things like standing in front of a mirror and saying, I look fat today, or
Or I need to go on a diet.
or these jeans don't fit anymore, or...
Yep, exactly. So commentary that we might have about ourselves or our eating, even the behaviours. So, constantly, modifying the way that we look on social media, or if we're engaging in dieting or weight loss
Filters.
practices. Yeah,
Should
absolutely.
we restrict their access to social media? Like, how can we do that? Because it's all around
You
them.
can't shelter them though, can you?
And I think this is, again, the idea of prohibiting anything. We know that forbidding things tends to make things worse. And so it's much better to have conversations and be open and real about these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And sort of open up the dialogue. Because I think one of the problems with social media now is that children they're noticing their flaws, that they're actively changing their flaws to meet these ideals. It's very different from what we know is helpful, which is basically that we are engaging in conversations or discussions around challenging belief systems, if that makes sense. It's called cognitive dissonance. You can't believe that you need to be thin to be attractive, and like the belief system and the action will align.
To match up.
And so if we can create some dissonance there, and that's what we can do as parents.
So where can parents go if they have a concern about their son or their daughter?
So if you're concerned about body image issues in general, I think, and certainly if you're starting to notice changes or problems, when we're talking about eating disorders, we're talking about a whole cluster in symptoms that someone might be developing, so changes in eating behaviour and appetite and interest in food. The Butterfly Foundation is a great place to start, and they can talk you through how to approach a child about this problem that you're observing, or coach you through how you might manage the situation, and also act as a referral base.
Thank you so much for joining us. You've been a wealth of knowledge. We really appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And look, if you've got any issues with what we've talked about today, or if there's anything that you'd like to talk to someone about, we encourage you to contact the Butterfly Foundation. The details are on your screen. Ladies, thank you. Always a pleasure, never a chore, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.